Rusty. First
Oh,
one. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Live with CLIPA. Very excited to be here. This is our first episode of the season. It just gives us an opportunity to interview some of our vendors, some of our speakers for CLIPA Con 2026. We are very excited for this year's event. It's going to be epic. So make sure you join us. We partnered up with a huge convention again this year. So very excited to do that again. Last year was amazing. A lot of great speakers and great vendors that came out. So here we are. We're going to start it off with Jonathan. Jonathan does roof safety and all sorts of stuff. And this is a huge topic. So we are so excited to have you as part of CLIPA Con this year, because this is always a big topic for us. So Jonathan, welcome to the program.
thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
I love your office. I mean, what kind of setup you got going there? It's pretty cool.
This is definitely my office these days. I just am driving back to Virginia from Chicago. I'm somewhere outside of Pittsburgh at this point, but yes, this is my office at this point.
Okay. Well, hopefully it's not a roll them up area and it's a safe zone for you. We don't want anything happening while we're doing this interview. But thank you for joining us. This is always a great topic, and it's always something that people want more information about because it's very important. I mean, rooftop safety, very important. We do, in our trainings, we talk about some methods and some things. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and how you are an expert in this arena.
Yeah, excellent question. So, everyone loves a safety guy, right? Who can come in and kind of make life a little miserable for people who just want to get the job done. I started my career in safety, interestingly enough, in a completely different industry with Walmart warehousing, and was inundated with a lot of corporate safety, and then began working in rooftop type industries, in particular in the chimney sweeping industry. Fun fact, I'm a certified chimney sweep. They still exist, but we found that chimneys are always in the most difficult places to reach, sometimes the highest, sometimes the most unique. And so how do you balance what OSHA requires versus we just got to get the job done? How do we do that? And so Rooftop Safety USA was created several years ago from my predecessor for solving that. And so I acquired the company last year. I was an early adopter in my chimney sweeping career, and I found that the methods that I was taught and now teach weren't just methods to keep me safe. I actually could move faster, and customers, I won more bids when I showed up with my safety gear because they could see that I took it seriously. And especially when you're inspecting someone's chimney, you're looking out for their safety. So when I could show that I'm looking out for mine as well, it was a big win. So understanding what OSHA requires for companies, no matter how big or small, but then also having practical application, that's my passion. The guys on the roof trying to figure out, how do I get to that part of the roof? How do I do it safely? And with the methods that I teach, you can't fall.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And we are worldwide right now. So we've got a big audience that's watching this. And a lot of them probably have the same question I have. When you're doing the chimney sweeps and all that stuff, is it really safe to dance and sing songs while you're doing that stuff?
As long as you're harnessed in, you can dance and do a TikTok, whatever you need to do. As long as you're harnessed in, you're good.
Okay, because that's what Dick Van Dyke was doing, right, on Mary Poppins. So I'm just like, I don't know, that seems kind of weird. You shouldn't be doing that. You should be focused on cleaning chimneys, right?
There are some sweeps that still wear the hat and tails. Not this one, but some do.
That's awesome. So cool. And this is such a hot topic. I've said that so many times, and it really is. Everybody wants more of this information. What can they do? We teach them how to get up on the roof and stuff like that. And Christmas light installation is boom, 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 boom. You want to move through as many houses as you can. And I've seen systems where it's like, oh, it takes you a half hour, 45 minutes. You can't put a price on safety. by any means. Buy the right products, buy, whatever you're going to do to help you make sure you're secure up there. But what can you tell Christmas light installers in particular about roofline safety? And I don't want to give away like all the stuff because you are going to be talking at CLIPA Con, so we're excited to have you there. But what can you tell them about moving through these projects, but safely moving through them? Because you want to knock out 7, 8 houses per day or whatever it may be. What can you do to be safe out there for these guys?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't mind repeating it as many times as we have to, whether it's here or at CLIPA Con. So we have the OSHA requirements, and the OSHA standards are a minimum standard. And sometimes for small businesses, we may not fully understand what the OSHA requirements are. So that's one thing I like to do, is just educate, what does OSHA require of me? So there's that. But then you have the crews on the job. They have a job to do. Like you said, it needs to be productive and it needs to be efficient. Yeah. We don't need to sacrifice safety to do that. But oftentimes the crews make a choice. I'm either going to take the time to set this up and make no money, or take the time to set it up and be safe and maybe take a hit on the productivity. That's another passion of mine. Like I said, I like using methods that make sense. And so I'll use, for example, a Ridge Pro is a tool that I have used and others are familiar with. And I have a video on YouTube. The video is literally 1 minute and 44 seconds. That's how long it takes me to have my Ridge Pro up and I'm harnessed in and I'm ready to begin, in that case, an inspection. 1 minute and 44 seconds. So one of the things I do is I teach options, basic ropes access, fall arrest, fall protection, different types of gear as a baseline, so that then the crews can build from there. Because as we know, all houses are the same, right? All pitches are the same. Every setup's going to be the same, right? No, it's all very unique and it's very different. So my teaching is I'm giving everyone the basic tools, the foundations, and then helping them learn how they can adapt it to the job and do it quickly. We know that there are going to be some homes that are just going to take a little bit more, but if we have a solid plan in place, that's always the biggest factor for the win from the very beginning. So having that foundation in place, having a plan going into it, knowing what OSHA says, knowing we got to get it done, all of those factors play into the plan and come out with a really good product. And it might be different based on what the company says. OSHA might say one thing and the company might want to go a little bit beyond that, because OSHA really is the bare minimum. It truly is. And it's got to make sense. So aside from fall protection, sometimes we're gripping the roof while or in chimney world, they're gripping the chimney, or in lights, I'm sure you're like holding onto the gutter while you're reaching from the ladder. In some cases, even if you have fall protection in place, it really keeps you from falling, but doesn't help you do the work. So the methods that I teach don't just keep you from falling, they actually help you get up there. You're climbing roofs. And so we take some from the climbing industry, and then when you're up there, it holds you in place. So work positioning, the equipment that I train on helps you to just stay in place comfortably so your hands can be free to do the work that you need to do. So it's multifaceted. There's a baseline, but it can be custom tailored to the job. And my role really is just to educate the companies on what options they have to stay above board with OSHA and to keep their teams productive. And honestly, the crews that I train, by the end of the training, they're having a blast. They're enjoying it. They're sending me pictures from their phone. You won't believe this setup. Check it out. And you have your crews engaged, which you really can't put a dollar figure on that when the technicians get engaged.
Yeah. So I know that whole segment you were talking right there, you did say some foul language several times. You used the same word. It's almost like dropping an F-bomb. You said OSHA probably about 15 times. So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about, people fear, OSHA, they cringe, stuff like that. Is that something they should be cringing? I mean, if they're doing the right things and they're following, the stuff that you're teaching or what they're being taught, is that something that you really fear? Should they fear OSHA?
Well, we fear the unknown. All of us do. And a lot of times we just don't know. And OSHA can show up at any time and say, hey, that's a violation. Here's a whole bunch of money for the fine. But if we understand what their role is to enforce the OSHA general duty clause that we all have to follow, which is There might be hazards in the workplace, but if you're going to have someone do the work, you've hired an employee, it's your responsibility to make sure you're taking care of them to reduce or eliminate hazards as much as possible. That's really their main mission. If they show up and they see that someone just doesn't really care about their workers' safety, then they're gonna bring out the fines, they're gonna bring out the citations.
Yeah.
But oftentimes with small companies, most owners really do care. They just don't fully understand. Add to that the fact that sometimes, a lot of times, OSHA doesn't always know where to peg unique industries like holiday light installation, like
Yeah.
chimney inspection, like solar, pressure washing, painting. These are not necessarily construction industries, but for years we were all held to construction safety standards. And so recently, OSHA and the National Chimney Sweep Guild had a lawsuit settlement that clarified those tasks that don't fall under construction, and they're no longer holding us to construction standards. But again, even that can be confusing and that can be
Yeah.
unknown. And so we shouldn't fear OSHA. We should probably fear ignorance. I mean, honestly, and not just do the work and go through the work and say, well, we don't know what we're going to do, so we're just going to, do our thing and get up and get down and hope no one falls. The reality is people fall.
Yeah.
And we have to have a plan for that. But and when you get into what OSHA requirements are, it's pretty common sense and it's pretty basic. And so then it's just informing ourselves on, okay, what is OSHA going to say? But then we add to that, what's our plan going to be? So should we fear OSHA? No, we really should fear, what we don't understand. And we don't have an excuse. If OSHA does show up and a small business says, oh, I didn't know, they're going to say that doesn't really help. You need to know. If you're going to have someone doing your work, if you hired somebody, you need to know.
Yeah, of course, love it. There's so many systems out there. There's the Cougar Paws. There's the, as you mentioned earlier, the Ridge Pro. There's the Valentine system, and I'm sure you know all these things. And we recommend a few of them, in our training. Like, hey, you should do this. But if you want to learn more, you want to educate yourself, you need to take a class. You need to understand it a little bit more in depth. What are the top things that you would be like, hey, Christmas light installers? This is a must-have item, is what you need to have.
Well, and then it sounds terribly generic, Matt, but the number one item is the one you're going to use, the one that you like, the one that works for you, the one that you're going to use. And so if you're trying to use a system that's clunky, that you're not as comfortable, you're not as familiar with it, it's going to take longer, and your guys probably aren't going to use it. Your crews probably aren't going to use it. So of those options that you mentioned, the most important factor is one that you like, one that your crews like, and one that's versatile for what you do. I used the Ridge Pro very often for a lot of reasons. I may not necessarily need to get on the roof, but I might need to get closer to the edge, and I just need something as an anchor point so I can move. And when I'm done, I can move it very quickly, move my ladder, and keep going. So the Ridge Pro for me is a go-to quite a lot. The next would be the system that I teach a lot for the chimney folks, is using ground anchors. And so OSHA is now permitting us to use trees, vehicles, something substantial to use as an anchor point. It's called creative anchoring. And that's kind of a light bulb moment, because oftentimes you get to a home, how many customers do you know are going to be okay with us drilling holes in their roof so we can put an anchor point there? And most customers that I had are not cool with that, nor do I want to be liable for putting a hole in someone's roof.
Of course,
Well, a lot of the temporary anchors for residential require that. You can go to a home improvement store and get a DeWalt safety in a bucket, and it'll have harness and lanyard and a temporary anchor. And I think for the DeWalt, I think it's about 32 holes. Oh, and it's got to be in a support beam. It's got to be in the truss. It's got to be in the framing, which you can't see because you're on the top of the roof. So there's a lot of variables. So using ground anchors on the opposite side that you're working is very effective, and it allows you to move and traverse the roof as needed. So that's a plus there. So yeah. Yep.
So let's talk about the ground anchor stuff, and let's get out to this project. What are we looking at? You know, like Crispin, again, we want to move fast through these things. We want to be safe. What does it entail to do a ground anchor? If I was going to go out there, we're on a job site. Maybe you just have one person that focuses on safety. That's what you're doing, safety,
Yep.
and then you're focused on electrical or whatever the case is. What does it take to set that up and get that
Yeah.
process into place?
So my predecessor did a time study, and on how long it takes, and he started from truck to setup. And so what I mean by truck is climbing out of the cab, putting on his gear, getting the components out, and it was less than 10 minutes. And he was walking, he wasn't running. And so
Yeah.
again, for that ground anchor setup, 10 minutes, that's not bad. Now, of
Yeah.
course, it does depend on the house you're working on, right?
Yeah.
But we stole a lot of components, I guess, stole from arborists. So we use a line deployment to set the initial line on the roof to pull our rope up to the roof. That saves a lot of time. You don't have to set up a ladder and walk up to the roof without fall protection. But that allows you to, the moment you have 1 foot on the ladder, you're hooked into your harness. And so before you even leave the ground, you're in fall protection.
Yeah.
So that process, 10 minutes or less on average, of course, for a larger house and depending on your setup, might take longer. But I mean, even if we're going to say 20 minutes, right? Even if you're in a larger home and you have multiple lines to set up in those cases, that's really not so bad. For a lot of, jobs and other industries, they're doing a day of staging and setup
Okay.
for their safety, whereas we can actually be pretty efficient with our time.
Yeah, nice. Love it. So I'm going to put you on the spot here. The GOAT, Ridge Pro. Which one you buying?
Ridge Pro all day long. I've used both.
Okay.
I've used the goat in the past, and here's why. If you've ever had to work off of a goat, that's where the challenge comes in. The goat is a roof assist.
Yeah.
It's kind of a ladder. It's really good if you just need to get up as an inspector. But if you have to do any work, that's where the Ridge Pro comes in. I can be harnessed into the Ridge Pro and hands free. On the goat, you can kind of be hands free at some point. Your knees might be helping. And then if
Okay.
you reach too far on the goat, you do have some deflection because the ridge hook, if you reach too far, it'll push against the bottom of the goat. And at some point, you might have to get off the goat
Yeah.
to reach a spot. And so at that point, there is no fall protection unless you're using it in tandem with some ropes or harnesses. But if I had both in my truck, when I began adopting and using Ridge Pro, my goat got dust on it, and I eventually just gave it to another crew because I didn't use it.
Well, the good news is the Ridge Pro is a lot cheaper. So there you go. You have that. So nothing against the GOAT. I think the GOAT's
Nothing
will be.
against the goat. That's
Yeah,
right.
and you could probably use it in different applications and stuff like that. So it's not like it's going to be useless.
That's right.
Completely. So if you have
That's
a
right.
GOAT, don't be throwing it away. You're still in good hands. So
Yep. But that's a great example of understanding what tools are out there that you can then use for whatever situation.
you have a full arsenal. You've got everything you need in different situations. Not like you said earlier, not every house is going to be the same. They're not all the same.
That's right.
And so you've got to basically adjust every single house. There might not be a tree you can, harness off to. So
That's
you've
right.
got to adjust every house you go to. And that's part of the inspection process is, we have to use it. And I would recommend it's during the sales process is, okay,
Yes.
how are we going to harness this off? Educate your sales reps. Okay, before we even get out there, we know this is going to be a harness install. Let's be prepared. Let's have the right systems.
That's
and
right.
Start taking the next step beyond just selling the project. But what are we going to do? How are we going to install this project?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the biggest part. Having that plan, having other tools available, understanding what OSHA requires, and honestly making sure that those crews are the experts on it, right?
Yes.
Understanding that they have tools at their disposal, but then knowledge on how to apply it.
Love it. Well, John, we're excited to have you. What can they expect at CLIPA Con this year? And this is why we're doing this stuff, so we can get people educated on the speakers, so they can understand what they can expect when they come to CLIPA Con this year. So what can you just give us just a little bit about what you're going to be talking about? Obviously safety, roof line and stuff like that, but maybe just a little bit further, more in depth on what they can expect in your class.
Yep. fall protection. And again, what does OSHA say? What's available and what can we do? And it's not about flying under OSHA's radar. It's about understanding how to apply, because that's where a lot of confusion comes in.
Yeah.
So really my goal is to educate on what does OSHA say for fall protection, what options do we have available, and what are some ways we can apply them. I'm going to have a booth there as well. I'll have some harnesses and some components on display just to look at and engage and talk with people about. But that's really, there's so many other elements of safety that come into running a business, right? But I think the most glaringly obvious one for us is the fall protection aspect, because we need to make it make sense for what we do. That's my passion.
Crucial, very important, and a lot of the people that will be attending CLIPA Con have crossover businesses where they'd be able to use this and implement this into both businesses. So love it. Amazing topic, and looking forward to having you out there. So Jonathan, thank you very much. Very excited to have you out there. Safe travels driving across wherever you're driving to. Where are you based out of, by the way?
I am based out of the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia, just south of Harrisonburg.
Never been there, so
it's beautiful.
I'll put on my bucket list to come on out there and visit you. So really looking forward to it. So if you want to come out to CLIPA Con 2026, very excited. Again, we partner up with the huge conventions. This year, I do want to thank our sponsors. We've got a lot of them. Very excited. Tencel, S4 Lights, Holodynamics, Rooftop Safety USA. That's the one I should get right because you're here. Mr. Pipeline, Tough Clips, Holiday Home Concepts, Secret Weapons, VA Service, Syngym, going to be one of our new vendors there. Very excited to have them. Lightnetics. So please come out and join us. I have to look at my calendar. It's actually August 26th this year. We're just doing one day. So it's a lot easier to get in there and out. If you do purchase a ticket to CLIPA Con, you get a free ticket to the huge convention. So that's something you really want to check out. So go visit all the vendors that are going to be at the huge convention. A lot of them that aren't at CLIPA Con are going to be at the huge convention. You might find a vendor that's going to help your business and further your business. So don't just think pressure washer, power washing. That's not all it's all about. There's a lot of different companies that are going to be there that can help you further your business and take it to the next level. So very excited to have you, Jonathan. Once again, thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing you out in Florida. We're in Florida this year. Wow, got to get used to saying that. I'm so used to being out in Nashville for the huge convention, but this year's in Florida. So Jonathan, thank you very much. We'll see you in Florida.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to it.
Thank you.